Good afternoon, automotive technology students. This is Mr. Martin. For those of you who are new students, I wish that I could have seen your face for at least one day before we went to NTI format. Unfortunately, that is not the case. For those of you who I've had in the past, last year or for 2 years now, I can't wait to get you back in the shop, but right now we're just going to have to feel it out and wait and see what that looks like. This video will be the first of many that I intend to make over the course of this NTI period. The goal of this particular video is going to be to update everyone on what I know, what I have learned over the last 24 hours on how the format of school will work for us here at the ATC for the automotive program. Now, what happens in the automotive program may look a little bit different than some of the other programs, but we are all going to try and follow pretty much the same format. So on this board behind me, right here, I have 4 questions that I have already been asked by numerous people, so I want to address those questions in this video. And if you have additional questions, please feel free to email me and call me. My phone number is going to be listed in the comments section. So some of you probably already have that from last year, but if you don't, I will give that out again so that you can call or text, and I will address those questions as quickly as possible, typically within a 24-hour period. So let's get to it to try and keep this video as short as possible. So question number 1 here, NTI, I know it's written kind of small, NTI expectations for auto students. So what does that look like for an automotive student? Everybody knows that traditional NTI, non-traditional education, is impossible to do for a hands-on class. However, there is a certain amount of work that can be done. The theory behind what it is that we are learning can be done online. Now, of course, the hands-on portion cannot be done online. You will have to come into the building to do certain things, but we'll get to that here in a minute. So NTI expectations for auto students, what that is going to look like. Every student is scheduled to be in my class for a specified time. So if you are a first year student, meaning this is the first time in this class, typically that is going to be the first part of the day regardless of what school you come from. So that is typically going to be somewhere around 8:30 to around 9:50, somewhere in that time frame. Now, if you are a second year student, it is going to be somewhere in the next time frame, around 10 to 11 or a little after 11. And then if you are a third year student, that would put you in the afternoon. So if you are in the afternoon, you're going to be here probably from like 12:30 or 12:50 all the way to the end of the day, 3 to 3:15, depending on what school you go to. If you are an Explore student, you would be here the last portion of that part of the day, from about 12:50 to 2 o'clock, I think, is the time frame for that. So what is the expectation for a student in NTI in the automotive setting? Currently, the expectation is that you are to meet with me, whether that be Zoom or whether that be some form of contact as far as you submitting an assignment, answering a verbal question, or responding to one of these videos that I post. Everything that we are going to do is going to be using Google. We will be using Google Classroom and Google Forms. So when you submit your response, whatever it is going to be time-stamped. It is going to tell me when you submitted it, and it is also going to be available for the school district to monitor and see. If you are not responding, if you are not participating, if you are not being in contact with me over a period of time, I am going to have to report that to the school district, and you are going to be truant. So the expectation is, it is my understanding anyway, and this could change, but it is my understanding that at this time, you are required to be in contact with me once a day for your time frame in my class, whatever that time frame may be. And if you're here for a 90-minute period, Our sessions will not last 90 minutes. They will be 20 to 30 minutes tops. If I post a video, it will be no more than 20 to 30 minutes demonstrating something or outlining a series of questions that I expect you to respond to in the form of a Google document. So hopefully that answers that as far as the expectations go. There will be more information to come on that. When I post a video, you will know about it beforehand. You will have plenty of time to respond. I do not expect anybody to respond necessarily in the same day. So if I post a video outlining the instruction of something in this shop, I expect your response to be in 24 hours. So that means you can do it that night, or you can do it early the next day before our session would start. So again, if you do not understand that, or if I can explain it better in a different manner, I'd be glad to take phone calls or text messages one-on-one and have a phone conversation to answer any additional questions that you might have. And again, that may change. If it does change, I will post another video similar to this one with any additional updates or revisions to the expectations for students. My expectation for myself as an instructor is that from 8 to 3:30, it is my job to be available to all students' needs. So if I issue you an assignment and you do not understand it, you should contact me, whether that be with a phone call, a text message, or an email, and it is my job to respond to you in a timely manner to answer whatever that question may be. So that is the expectation for all teachers, is that they are available for the students' needs during normal school hours. All right, moving on to question number 2. It says NTI duration. There have been some questions about when school is going to start or not start as far as in-person goes. Right now, the duration of time is as the governor recommends, and that is going to be from the 26th of August through or up to September 28th. What that means is that there will not be normal in-person classes. So if you are an eminent student, you will not come to the ATC for a normal scheduled school day. You will be doing it virtually to the best of our ability. Now, with that being said, they have given us the option, and again, this is something that could change. We're still not exactly sure how this is going to work or what it's going to look like, but they have given us the option to bring students in small groups. So that goes back to doing certain things in this shop. Now, what defines a small group? That is going to be on a case-by-case basis because every program has different needs and different numbers of students. So for me, I think that that is probably going to be no more than 4 or 5 students at a time. So no more than 4 or 5 students per day, essentially, and that is going to be something that is going to have to be scheduled beforehand. We are working currently on figuring out the details, the aspects of how that will look, but essentially the student will schedule an appointment to see their instructor for whatever that hands-on activity is. And again, for automotive, it may look different than it does for industrial maintenance or different for machine tool. As soon as I get additional details on what that will look like, I will inform you. But the duration is going to be up until at least September 28th that we work on this type of a schedule. You cannot show up to the ATC with a flat tire and expect to bring it in this building and repair it. We cannot do that. In the past, students have filled out work orders, and I would allow students to fill them out same day, bring their car in and fix it. It will not be that way. You will have to schedule an appointment at least 24 hours in advance and get it approved before you are allowed to come into the building and do work. Okay, so again, any additional questions on that, please contact me. If you have some kind of an emergency situation with your vehicle, that may be a case-by-case scenario, and we may be able to do something to try and help you out. But do not show up to the ATC between the 26th and the 28th without prior scheduling or consent from myself or Ms. Green or somebody else in the administration. Question number 3, ASE industry testing. we normally do that twice a year. We got to do it in the fall last year, and typically students get their results, and then they spend the time between the fall and the spring testing trying to do better and update and study so that in the spring they can take that test and pass it. We did not get to take that test in the spring. Fortunately, the testing window has been extended until September 30th. Now, that poses a slight problem because we are not scheduled now to go back to school until at least the 28th. It would be unrealistic to expect all students to study, take, and pass those exams in a 2-day time frame. So what I am currently asking questions about and hopefully going to get answers on is, can we schedule students in those small groups, 2 or 3 or 4 at a time, to come in and take those industry exams? So for those students who were juniors last year going into their senior year this year, you need those tests in order to be able to do a co-op experience. A handful of you had passed those last fall, and a large portion of you were very, very close to passing. You just needed that second attempt. You needed that little bit of remediation before you could pass. My hope is that you will be able to come in between August 26th and September 28th and take those tests. You cannot take them at home. They have to be taken in this building, and they have to be proctored by Miss Green or Mr. Coleman. They cannot be proctored by me. So again, that is something that I'm hoping to work out, and it will be similar to the in-person work. You will have to schedule that in advance, at least a day, and get it approved, and you will come in and I will assign you that test. You will go into a separate room, or at least these are my hopes. You'll go into a separate room and you will take that test and you will get your results and we'll know how you did. If that doesn't happen, then we are going to have to try and work something out when we do finally return. But that is going to mean that those students who are now seniors who don't have those test credentials are going to have some difficulties later on in the school year, and I don't want that. I want to try and get that stuff knocked out beforehand. That's why we do it the junior year, so that when they return as a senior, you're ready to work. But that's not set in stone yet. Again, once I get additional information on that, I will be updating you with a video similar to this. Okay? Shop and lab work, that's already been covered. You must get that approved beforehand. It is not out of the question that we will do some of that, but it is going to have to be very small quantities of students, and it's going to have to be scheduled in advance. I thought that I would also take this time just to give those students who I know are missing this place just a little view of the things that are currently here. It looks, for the most part, the same as it did when you left. Not a lot of new stuff going on. I do have some projects here that I had planned for students to do. Of course, we didn't get to do those things just because of the shutdown in March. So those things are still here. This car is still here, and the engine is still out, awaiting students to work on it. The engine is still on the same test stand. I just covered it up to keep the dirt out of it. We do have another car here that was dropped off at the beginning of March to be finished up, and it is still sitting right here behind me. It is might be hard to see there with the sun, but we do have plenty of student work here. We just have to get the students back in the building to do it. All right, so I am going to close out this video by saying I can't wait to see everybody. I can't wait to get everybody back in the building, but at the same time, we have to remain as cautious as possible to make sure that we do not go outside of those guidelines. We certainly do not want to get anyone sick, and we do not want to get the school in trouble. We don't want to do anything that would be questionable. So anything that does happen between August 26th and 28th, again, it must be pre-approved, and we must make sure that if you are in this building, that we are adhering to those guidelines. And that does include wearing your normal PPE, your safety glasses, which everybody loves so much, but that is now also going to include wearing one of these masks. Unfortunately, it is inconvenient, but it is the guideline, and we must do so if there are people within 6 feet of us. In the shop, there will be no sitting still. Obviously, you'll be moving, so you will have to be masked if you are here. So be aware of that. You'll be expected to bring that with you when you come, if you schedule time to come and do work here. So again, any additional questions, please feel free to ask those. I will answer them as quickly as possible. But other than that, I hope everybody has a great afternoon, and look forward to seeing you, whether that be virtually or in person. Have a good afternoon. See you guys.